This episode of Tekzilla is brought to you by the 2012 Ford Mustang. Hacking legend or infamous computer break-in artiste, I'm talking about Kevin Mitnick. He's an author, he's a consultant, and I'm pretty sure he's got a great idea on how naughty folks use the phone, email, and other tools to get information out of you that maybe you shouldn't want to share. Kevin, welcome to Tekzilla, man.
Oh, thank you for having me on your show, Patrick.
It's been a while since we've run into each other a couple times in Vegas. You live down in Vegas now.
Yeah, I still live in Vegas.
New book coming out. Normally, I would say Ghost in the Wires, My Adventures as the World's Most Wanted Hacker, and I'd say, what's it about? But it seems like it's about the time you were being chased by people who were a little pissed off at you. I mean,
not only that, it's kind of my whole life story of how I got involved in hacking, really from the era of phone phreaking. It came with the same stuff that Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were doing in the 70s, and then it brings how I went from phone phreaking into hacking, how I did this cat and mouse game with the government, and it's kind of like a catch me if you can, and just like it's a bunch of crazy stories. Like my favorite hack wasn't into like a company like Motorola. It was actually into McDonald's.
Oh, funny.
And what I did, and this is when I'm a juvenile, is I was a ham radio operator. I still am, by the way, and I figured out how I could take over the drive-up windows to McDonald's. So when people would drive up, I would be the guy taking the order. The guys inside with the headsets could hear everything that's going on, but we're helpless to stop it. So, of course, people would drive up. I'd say, "Can I take your order?" "Oh, you're the 50th customer. Please drive forward. Your order's for free." Then when the cops would drive up, and I'm kind of a rebel, I'd go, "Hide the cocaine! Hide the cocaine!" "Oh, may I take your order, sir?" And I got them so annoyed that the manager walks out into the parking lot. He's scanning the parking lot like who's messing with the system. He's looking into the vehicles, and he sees nothing. And he walks right up to the drive-up window speaker, puts his head like he's looking inside for a midget, and I key down the mic. I go, "What the hell are you looking at?" And the guy flies back like 20 feet. So that was actually my favorite hack of all time that's in the book. I didn't get in trouble for it, but it was still fun.
That's probably a good thing, because the Mickey D managers, when they get angry, they get angry.
They get angry. Then you don't want to go back because who knows what they might do to your food.
That would be bad.
That would be bad.
That would be very bad. So let's talk about social engineering, not getting scammed, something you know a little bit about. I was laughing, like somebody calls you on the telephone, and because people still do this, somebody calls you on the telephone, asks you for your password. What do you do?
Hey, you just give it to me and I'll hold it for you. Don't worry. I mean, it still happens. Actually, that's the most basic attack. I mean,
social engineering.
Usually social engineering is a little bit more sophisticated than just calling someone up and asking for their password. But it happens today because my bank calls me. They want to talk about my account and they want to verify I'm the customer because they're just calling.
You're with a major national
major bank,
and this happened to you like a week ago.
Yeah, they call me. They go, "Hi, may we speak to Kevin Mitnick?" "Yeah, this is he. How can I help you?" "Oh, this is so and so bank, and we want to discuss your account." I said, "No problem. How can I help you?" And they go, "Okay, we need to verify your identity. Can you please give us your password?" I go, "And you're calling me for my password?" And I said, "I don't think so." I ended up calling the bank back because it sounded legit. And it was legit. But see, this is the problem because people get used to this type of behavior, and then when a hacker or an identity thief calls,
"Oh, I got an email
here's
from
my password."
eBay.
Exactly.
eBay wants my login and my password so they can verify that my Hassenpfeffer isn't infected.
Yeah. But social engineering attacks have gotten pretty sophisticated. A friend of mine, David Kennedy, has developed this thing called the Social Engineering Toolkit, which is free, and it allows you to create attacks. Like, for example, you can clone Revision 3's website instantly, and then set it up to exploit a browser vulnerability, or even put up a fake Java applet that's signed by Revision 3. And as soon as the gullible user clicks that Java applet or opens up a link, the game is over.
It's so funny. We've seen nasty code placed, basically served by ad servers. We've seen it embedded on websites, of course, torrent sites. So obviously, running security software, run a good security suite. And you were actually telling me about Personal Software Inspector. What's that called?
Right. So,
or what's that do?
What social engineering looks like today, it's mostly how attackers are breaking into your machine, because they use a social engineering component, and then once you
a phishing email
comply, right? Once you comply with that request, it exploits a vulnerability with some desktop software like Adobe Acrobat, Adobe Flash, your media players, your any other type of desktop software you might use, and Personal Software Inspector allows you to keep all your software up to date on your client, and it's a free product. I think it's by Sakuna, but you could just Google Personal Software Inspector, and that way it keeps your Adobe products up to date. And that's where most of the attacks are happening today, is by these vulnerabilities in Adobe run wild.
That's fine. I just realized, like Robert was talking about that earlier this week, is something sort of the next step. You've automated Windows Update on your parents' machine. Start running that. You're running into USB. You were talking about USB drives and Skype being two other points of vulnerability.
Yeah, I mean, it's an old attack, right? USB, you plug it in, it emulates a DVD or CD, auto runs code. I mean, you could still send a USB in the mail to somebody. They'll plug it in, or you put it near their office in the parking lot. And this is a very old attack, but it still works. On Skype, I still get messages on Skype, your machine's been infected, please download this product and it will clean your machine, while that is the malware. But one of the, I think one of the best recommendations is a lot of social engineering attacks take place. For example, RSA Security, one of their employees was mailed an Excel doc. When they opened it, it had an Adobe Flash embedded in the Excel doc, exploited it, and that's how they owned RSA. So what I do is I open all Office docs using Google Docs, because it's not using my software on my local machine, it's using Google.
Wow. So you sandbox it that way.
Yeah, so I'm kind of sandboxing it. I use Google Chrome because they have a decent sandbox, but users could use a virtual machine when they want to surf around the internet. But again, grandma's not going to do that. So my grandmother I'd set up with something like Google Chrome. Because don't forget, how you're getting compromised these days is attacker sends you something. When you click that link, when you open that attachment, it exploits the software on your desktop. So the two things you need to be concerned about is, are you going to open that? And two, if you do, make sure your software is up to date.
I'm curious, do you run Windows at all at this point?
In virtual machines. Actually, I love my Mac, and I'm running Linux, I'm running Windows, I'm running different operating systems, because companies are hiring me to break into their systems, and they're running a wide variety of systems these days.
What do you advise for anybody who's maybe their IT or they're sort of running a small to medium company, and they're watching this segment and they're panicking? Is there anybody out there that can help them secure their systems? Yeah,
I mean, what I really think really works is inoculation. You give people small doses of medicine, and it inoculates you like a flu shot. Well, there's companies out there that sell products that actually test and educate your users by attacking them legitimately. And you could Google Internet Security Awareness Training and look for a company that sells that product. And I really believe the inoculation works, because then your employees or your contractors are used to getting phishing emails asking them, to click on links to open attachments, and it's kept up to date, so it's in tune with the recent scams that are being circulated around the internet. So if you're an employee and you click the link and it says, "Hey, dummy, you shouldn't have done that," and you're doing it, and then now you're going to start to think, "Hey, I'm going to stop and think before I click."
It's so funny. I mean, things have gotten so complicated. Should you look at the back of a computer in a bank while you're sitting there waiting, you might notice that like the USB ports are all glued over now and stuff like that, because they've found naughty people keep finding new and exciting ways to break into systems. You know
about the Teensy attack, right? Teensy, it's a small little chip. You could go to teensy.com. It's a HID device, human interface device, and it emulates a keyboard. So basically, you could use Arduino. You could set up code on the Teensy device. So now, when you plug it in, it's injecting keystrokes. And this was announced at DEF CON, I believe, 2 years ago. And it's really cool, because there's no way to prevent it except by epoxying those. Epoxying those.
And epoxying the keyboard cables in place. Kevin Mitnick, a pleasure as always.
A pleasure, Patrick.
Where can people go to track to find you in the internet?
To find me, I have a Twitter account.
Okay.
It's Kevin Mitnick. Twitter.com/Kevin Mitnick. And then I have a website, mitnicksecurity.com. MITNICK security.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kevin Mitnick, man, myth, legend. We want to thank you for being on the show. Right now, though, we got to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors. Ford's back, sponsoring Tekzilla again today. We've been having a ball driving the 2012 Ford Mustang around town, prudently and with both hands on the wheel. And I'll tell you what, it turns a head or two every time we're on the road. Another great app integration for Sync Amply dropped last week. Slacker Radio. The App Link integration lets you play, skip, or ban songs from your Slacker radio stations via voice commands while keeping your hands safely on the wheel. Sync allows you to keep your eyes on the road and your hands up on the wheel. And thanks again to Ford and the 2012 Mustang for sponsoring Tekzilla today.